tell us just a little bit about your journey.
So since my childhood, I've been away from my parents, and I have been studying in Kalimpong till my class 10th. And for +2, I went to Mount Hermon School in Darjeeling. And after that, I went to Delhi to do my bachelor's in Delhi University. And then I went to Jamia. And then after that, when I went to Nepal, I did an internship at a production house. And from there, I got to know about the Central Tibetan Administration, and that is how I got here. And I'm currently working here at Tibet TV. I do interviews, and I also do news. I am also a news presenter for Tibet TV. I make short docus. I do the edits myself. I write the scripts myself. I look for the interviewees myself, and I do the research myself here at CTA.
Both your parents are Tibetans, a Muslim in Nepal, living in a Buddhist sort of setup in Nepal. How is that experience growing up, like, in exile as, a minority within a minority community?
So my experience growing up as a Muslim in Nepal was very interesting because when I was a little girl, we used to live in a small rented apartment in Tamil, and most of my neighbors were Tibetan Muslims, and we also had a lot of Tibetan Buddhists as well. So in that ways, I was exposed to both the Tibetan Muslims and the Tibetan Buddhists. Like, it was not a shock for me. So but there are still so many Tibetan Buddhists, and there are still so many Tibetans, in fact, who still don't know about the existence of Tibetan Muslims. But for me, like, since I have been exposed to both the religions, because they were there in my neighborhood. So for me, it was not, like, I didn't feel like it was a big thing, like, like we were the minorities. Like, we were all, like, I used to feel the same. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you. Now, so, and you also went to a Christian school, you got your early education, in a Christian convent school. So, that also should have some sort of, impact in your life as well, would you say?
Yeah, actually, I feel fortunate to be exposed to so many religions and to be having lived amongst them. So yeah, so it actually didn't affect me that much. Like, like, you just get to know about those religions, and you just gain knowledge about them. Like, I don't know, I've never, it's not like, just because you are living in a Christian school that makes you like, know more about, or less about yourself. Like, I don't know what to say in this, actually. It's just that I feel fortunate to having been exposed to so many like, institutions where they practice different religion.
Your job at Tibet TV right now, the way you got the job is also a very interesting, story. You are a special appointee of the Kasha, or the administration of the Central Tibetan Administration. How did that opportunity come about? Yeah, like, how did that work out for you?
So after I was done with my college in 2016, I went to Nepal, like I said earlier, and I started working at a production house there. And one day, the director of that production house told me that there is this film grant that CTA, Tibet TV, is offering. Why don't you try it? And so I decided to try in that, and then my synopsis got selected. So one day I received a letter from Central Tibetan Administration offering me a job, and I was told that I am a special appointee by Sikyong Dr. Lobsang Singye. So I went to my father and I told him that, I got this letter. And then my father, it's a very funny story. Like, he didn't believe me. Because we live in Nepal, and, we are not exposed to such personalities. We don't see, like, the president of Tibetan president in Nepal. So he just told me that, like, are you sure? Because it's Sikyong Dr. Lobsang Singye, and like out of blue, like, how can he just like appoint you? And then anyway, I had to go to Dharamsala because of the further selection process of the synopsis. And when I got here, I got to meet Sikyong. And then again, I told my father, I met Sikyong and he is offering me a job here. But then my father, he still didn't believe me. So Sikyong, he had to call my father in order for him to, believe the entire thing is true. So at the end, when my father spoke to Sikyong, he believed. And then, like, both my parents, they were really happy for me, like getting to serve Central Tibetan Administration under His Holiness the Dalai Lama. It was such a privilege, and yeah, and that's how I got here.
Great. In an interview, you talk about, how elated your mother was when, she got the news, and she had kind of forced, or, she basically told you not to worry about the salaries or everything, but, just like go to Dharamsala and to work, right? Like, so tell us just a little bit about that.
So yeah, my mother, she was the most happiest, actually, because, like, since her childhood, she was educated in the Tibetan school. And every time, like, she used to tell me, like, before I got to CTA, before I even knew about CTA, she used to tell me that I want to do something for the Tibetan government, because Tibetan government was the one who gave her education. And like, she always wanted to do something from her part. But then so when she heard that I got this job, she advised me, saying that like, don't see the salary and don't complain about the work that is given to you. Like, you give your best and don't get affected by what people talk about you and all of that. Like, she just told me, like, focus on your motive, and your motive is to do your best and not complain. Yeah. And she also told me to get in, like, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is a big inspiration for all of us. So yeah, so I just see his examples and I just do what I have to do here.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sakina. I was just wondering, do you sometimes feel like, maybe because your mom pushed you so much into, actually, taking this position, do you sometimes feel like you're living your mom's dream instead of pursuing your personal ambition? Do you sometimes feel like that?
I don't think it that way. Yeah, I am also living a part of my mom's dream, but then coming here is, like my ambition was also to be in this kind of a job. Like, I was brought here because I had a degree in mass communication, and CTA, Tibet TV, they during my time, they had very limited staffs, and they actually wanted more staffs from this background. And when I came here, I am doing what I have learned back there in my college. And I feel like after coming here, I am learning more and more. I'm exposed to so many things. And yeah, so I don't feel like, like I'm not following my ambition and I'm living my mother's dream. Yes, I'm living a part of her dream as well, because she wanted me to come here. But at the same time, being a Tibetan and being able to work in the media at Tibet TV, I think that itself is a huge opportunity, especially for a Tibetan. And I feel like Tibetan media, like people working in Tibetan media, is not just, Tibet TV, but I'm talking about RFA, I'm talking about Voice of Tibet, Voice of America, all all those Tibetans who get to work in the Tibetan media, I think all of them are very fortunate to be able to be the voice of the Tibetans in Tibet, to the Tibetans in exile and around the world, like talking about the issue of Tibet to the whole world, being aware, making all the people be aware of the Tibetan cause. There is so much going on in Tibet, and yet there are so many news channels who don't cover the issue of Tibet because of the Chinese pressure. But we, working in the Tibetan media, we get to be the voice of the people who are suffering in Tibet and also the Tibetans suffering in exile. We can be their voice and make the entire world be aware of the Tibetan issue.
You get the first-hand information about, everything that's going wrong inside Tibet. Do you feel sad or depressed every once in a while from the news that's coming from Tibet?
Yeah, I won't call it depressing, but then yes, sad, of course. Being a Tibetan, like, it's natural to be sad about the fact that Tibet is still under the illegal occupation of China, and many people in Tibet are being suppressed by the Chinese authorities. They are not being given the freedom, and we also in exile, we are also indirectly getting affected by them. So yeah, so I won't call it depressing. And in fact, it inspires me, or it gives me more power. It makes me more resilient, because even though so much is happening in Tibet, there are still, like, it's so surprising and it's so empowering to see the Tibetans, like, still voicing up and always, like, they are always there, talking about the cause of Tibet and keeping the Tibetan tradition, language, culture alive, even though, like, we can see that in Tibet, all this are being controlled. So it just gives me more power to see so many Tibetans, still voicing up for their rights. Yeah. So it's not depressing, it's sad, but it's not depressing.
Film grant that initially you applied for at the CTA, which actually in turn led you to, getting this job. Could you share with us what the synopsis was? So for the grant, you submitted, a project, and your synopsis must have been accepted. Could you tell us just a little bit about that story? And also, did it ever go into production?
Because I got this job here, I was not able to work on the film grant any further. So I had to drop out of that in order for me to get a job at CTA. So I was given a choice, and I chose to stay at CTA and be a part of Tibet TV. And speaking about my synopsis, it was 4 years ago, and it was a fiction story that I had written. I had written about two Tibetan Muslim women, and one of them was so there were two protagonists, and one of them was a Tibetan Muslim woman who a Tibetan Buddhist woman, actually, who converted her religion to Islam, like my mother, and how, and how her life changed after she converted herself to Islam and came into a different world, I must say. And the other one was about the triple talaq, because during that time there was a lot going on about triple talaq, and that's how, I portrayed these two ladies in this aspect. Yeah.
Sakina, shifting gear just a little bit, could you tell us just a little bit about Tibet TV, the work that you guys do over there, and if you don't mind talking about your own personal role at the department?
Tibet TV, compared to before, now Tibet TV has been developing a lot in terms of its infrastructure, the studio, and also, we have a lot of videos now. I mean, we have a lot of programs, and we and we have a lot of news, you know, like before it was just Tibetan, English, and Chinese, but now we have 11 different languages, which I think is a huge the development at Tibet TV's program. And also we have a lot of interviews, we have a lot of interview shows, and yeah, so we have a lot of programs. And recently we have even launched this not recently, last year we have even launched this new studio. So now we have a bigger studio with green screens, and you know, we have screens behind our backs. So yeah. And speaking about my personal role, I do, like I mentioned earlier, I'm a host for the In Conversation with Tibet TV, which is a conversation program, and also I am the anchor. I'm a news presenter for the English weekly news that's aired every Friday, and yeah, so I do the scripts myself. I do the video edits myself, and I do the anchoring myself, and same goes for In Conversation program. I do my own research. I look for my own interviewees. Yeah, I do the edits. Everything I do it myself. Obviously, the script will be once again edited by my editor, but yeah, the rest of it is all by myself. And I also make short documentaries, promotional videos, and I am also the MC for the official events of CTA.
Actually, very quickly, I was just wondering, how does it feel to be on the other side, being interviewed? Because, you are usually the one conducting the interviews. How does that feel?
Yeah, so I feel like because if I am an interviewer, I need to do a lot of research. I need to know about that person. I need to prepare the questions beforehand. So I feel like there is a lot of work for the interviewer, right, Kenrabla? Like even you, maybe like you also have done a lot of research about me before you called me for this show. So yeah, so but being an interviewee, I don't think so. Like we need to do a lot of preparations, like like we can just come here and then speak about things that we already know. So I prefer actually being the interviewee rather than the interviewer. But then like being the interviewer is also a very interesting job, because like these days, because you have to look for talents, you have to look for personalities, and these days because everyone is there on social media, most of them are there on social media, it's quite easy for you to like find those personalities. And that's why like being an interviewee, being an interviewer, I'm always on social media looking for talents, looking for personalities, looking for topics that are in trend. And what is the most interesting part is that you meet different personalities having different kinds of interest, and you learn about those interests, you dig into those personalities, and then you also gain a lot of knowledge. You know about so many different things. Yeah, so that is actually one of the things I like about my job. For example, like when I had interviewed a vegan activist, Dawa Dorkar, she's also a dentist, and she is an animal rights activist. When I was interviewing, when I was researching about her, like I went into, I came to know more about the animal suffering, and I came to know more about the benefits of becoming a vegan or becoming a vegetarian. And that's how I turned into a vegetarian. And similarly, when I interviewed Kesang, she is a social activist and the co-founder of Tokmo, an institution set up to pursue gender equality. So after researching about her, I came to be I became more aware of the women's rights. So in that ways, like I really like how my job is actually bringing a change into my life, and also like making me gain so much knowledge. And my job is in my job, like I learn every day. Like I come across different kinds of personalities every day, and I like the developing process in my job. Yeah.
Okay, once you lock a guest, right? What are some of the things that you do to prepare yourself for the interview?
Yeah. So initially, like I said earlier, I'm constantly on social media looking for new personalities, looking for new talents, and after I come across one, I try to, dig into his talents, and I try to look into what he or she is capable of, and about his or her work, and then I write a brief, brief. I make points about that person, and then I go to my editor to get the permission if I can actually interview this individual. So my editor also looks into the entire thing, and if she thinks that it's the topic is worth it, then she tells me, okay, you go for it. And then what I do is I first I approach that person. Some of them, there are some people who also deny being on the screen, and some of them, they are not comfortable, so some of them, they reject the proposal, but most of them, they are very happy to be on Tibet TV. So what I do is that I ask them for their biodata, and also I do a lot of research about them on their social media pages, and I prepare the script, and yeah, and then we have the show.
How does it feel working in a very Buddhist, sort of environment, and being the only, Muslim Tibetan in a very work environment? How does that work out?
Yeah, so being the only Tibetan Muslim, I never felt like I was the odd one out, and I've been telling this in all the interviews that was that. So yeah, because in Tibetan, what is so beautiful about Tibetan Muslims and the Tibetan Buddhists is that they have everything in common except for the religion. So externally, we are all the same. We wear the same traditional attire, we have the same Tibetan food, we drink the same Tibetan tea, we have Tibetan carpets at our house. So there are so many things, that are so similar. We have the same language. Yeah. So for example, when I was in my school, when I was in my college, I was the only Northeast student in my class. And when I went to Jamia, there were there were Muslims, but there were no Tibetan Muslims, and I was the only Tibetan Muslims, and I felt a little I felt a little odd one out. But here, since we belong from the same tradition, we share the same culture, and we belong from the same background, and we all look the same. I never feel there is a difference between the Tibetan Muslims and the Tibetan Buddhist. And here, most of the Tibetan Buddhists, they have been so understanding towards my religion. And, they have never made me feel like the odd one out, and they have been very kind. And yeah, and I'm so grateful for, all those people who have given me this much love and kindness. Even though, I'm the only Tibetan Muslim here, I've never felt I'm the odd one out.
Wonderful. I have been to Dharamsala a few times a while ago, and every time you're in Dharamsala, you would always feel like maybe if Tibet was a country, this is what it might look like. Does that resonate with you as well?
Yeah, exactly. Because I have never been to a place where I'll just wake up in the morning and then go out, and then I'll see Tibetan buildings. I'll see Tibetan women all wearing chuba, everybody speaking in Tibetan language, all your neighbors being Tibetan. So here, after coming here, it was like that, for me, every morning when I wake up, I see women wearing Tibetan clothes. Everybody's talking in Tibetan. All my neighbors are Tibetans. So this, I there's so much happiness inside me, because I have never been in a close Tibetan community, where there are so many Tibetans. And even when you go to McLeod, you see so many Tibetans. It's like it's like I'm living in a small world of Tibet. And sometimes I wonder, like, what if like Tibet gains its freedom back? And what if like we all get to go to Tibet? The whole country is your home. Here, it's only CTA, and it's only a little part of Dharamsala. Imagine if that is giving us so much happiness, how much happiness would it give if we go back to Tibet?
I'm into that. Sakina, how would you describe your relationship with His Holiness the Dalai Lama?
Yeah, so Tibetan Muslims always had this great relationship with the Dalai Lamas, starting from the fifth Dalai Lama, Nawang Lobsang Gyatso. And even now, even till today, Tibetan Muslims have huge respect for the 14th Dalai Lama. Yeah, so because of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, like, there are so many Tibetans in Srinagar who were provided homes, and there is also this Tibetan public school in Srinagar in the settlement itself. Yeah, so you're talking about how we the Tibetan Muslims, we look at His Holiness the Dalai Lama, since we are Muslims, and in Islam we don't do idol worship. So we look at His Holiness the Dalai Lama as a leader. And since I was a little girl, I was told that we have a king. And my mother always told me that like His Holiness the Dalai Lama is our king. So we always look at him as a very, like, as a leader figure. And we don't look at him as this spiritual leader because of our religion. Yeah. And I feel like there is not even one Tibetan Muslim who does not respect His Holiness. Everybody respects him, adores him, and have huge respect for His Holiness. And His Holiness also, like, praises the Tibetan Muslims when it comes to language, when it comes to food. Like he always adored Tibetan Muslim. So that is one of the things that I really like so much about His Holiness, that he does not differentiate between the Tibetan Buddhist and the Tibetan Muslims. In fact, I personally feel that he gives more priority to the Tibetan Muslims. He's always full of praises when it comes to Tibetan Muslims. Yeah.
And I also came to know that at some point you started taking classes, trying to learn how to read and write in Tibetan. How is that coming along? And why do you think it's important for us to not only be able to speak but also be able to read and write Tibetan?
Yeah, actually, it's very important to know Tibetan language, being a Tibetan. And and in between, like, I had taken classes in the library, but then later, like, after a few months, I was not able to continue because it clashed my work a lot, and like the timing was not suitable. So I had to make a choice, and then, like, I was not able to go for further classes. I wish I had, but then, like, because of my work, I was not able to. And also I feel that Tibetan Muslims, they are very lucky, to be exposed to the language that is appreciated, and the Lhasa accent, like everybody likes that accent. And but also I feel that the Tibetan some of the Tibetan Buddhists who have been studying in TCV, like they have their Tibetan language is all mixed. And that is only because after they came as a refugee to India, and like all the Tibetans, like from Amdo and everywhere, Khamba and all the students, like they stayed in TCV, and that's how, like, everybody, like, they have this mixed language. And it's very sad that sometimes, like, when these children, when these people, they speak in their language, like, they are made fun of, and they are, like, like, some people say that you don't have a very good Tibetan and all of that. I think that needs to be and that needs to be stopped, because that is actually discouraging. And some of the Tibetan people, like, who don't even have this Lhasa accent, who don't speak in, like, like, in Tibetan you say shesa. Yeah. So I feel like it's not their fault, because they have been brought up like that, because of the situation that happened, back then, when everybody came into exile. So I feel like, like, people should not discourage these kind of people, because when you tell them, like, shesa gyapumendo, like, you don't have a good Tibetan and all of that, the youngsters especially, they feel discouraged, and they won't feel like speaking in Tibetan, because they know that if they speak in Tibetan, they are being judged, they are being criticized. So I think that needs to be stopped. And Tibetan Muslims, we have been speaking with our family the entire, like, every time. So that's how, like, we gained this language. Yeah.
Sakina, do you know the population of Tibetan Muslims in India and Nepal, roughly? Just curious.
I am not very sure, but the majority of the Tibetan Muslim population lies in Srinagar, because they have the entire settlement there.
Mhm.
Other than that, like, there are Tibetan Muslims even in Arab, and we have Tibetan Muslims in Kalimpong, we have Tibetan Muslims in Darjeeling. There are quite a lot of Tibetan Muslims even in Nepal, and yeah. So, like, I feel like all of us, we are scattered. We don't have, like, a particular settlement where you can say that, like, go there, you'll find the Tibetan Muslims, but except for Srinagar. Otherwise, everywhere, like, we are all scattered.
Not just Tibetan Muslims, but younger Tibetan kids growing up in exile. Do you think you are able to, sort of leave some impact on those kids?
I don't know whether like, I'm leaving impact on the younger generation, but then, like, yes, I receive a lot of messages on my social media pages where, like, the younger generation, they message me and they say that, like, you are an inspiration. Even I want to become a journalist, even I want to become a news presenter, I want to host interviews, and I'm learning so much from you. So getting all these messages is very, like, you feel really good, and you feel like, you are also doing a part, not just by being there on the screen, but actually making an impact on the younger generation. And I like I said earlier, like, being a Tibetan and being able to work in the Tibetan media, being able to be the voice for so many Tibetans in Tibet who are under the repression of the Chinese authorities, and also, like, the Tibetans in exile, being able to voice for everyone and creating awareness of the Tibetan issue. And and like I said earlier, again, like, I'm not just talking only about the Tibetan media people working at Tibet TV, but also in Voice of America, Voice of Tibet, RFA, everywhere. Like, they are all very I feel that they are all very fortunate to have been given this platform where you can be the voice of the Tibetan cause.
You are a special appointee of the Kasha, the Sikyong, and Tibetans just have our election, and we will have a new Kasha in the coming days. So what does that mean to you? And also, I mean, are you planning on continuing your work at CTA, or do you have other or bigger dreams in life?
Yeah, so it's true that we are going to have a new Sikyong, and I'm sure all the Tibetans across the world are very curious about the result, and we are all hoping for the best to be our Sikyong. And speaking about my term here, to be honest, I don't have any plans as yet. I don't know whether I'll be staying here or I don't know whether I'll be leaving. But then, yes, no matter where I go, even after I leave Tibet TV, I know that it's not going to be the same. Tibet TV is a very huge platform. Like, it's a channel for the Tibetan government, and it's working under His Holiness the Dalai Lama. That is one of the, I feel like, being able to work at Tibet TV is one of the most fortunate, what do I say, most fortunate job for an individual. I feel so blessed. And yes, so wherever I go, in after Tibet TV, wherever I go, in any media houses, I know that it's not going to be same as Tibet TV. In Tibet TV, like, you don't, no matter how much amount of work or whenever you're called, like, you don't feel like complaining. Like, you feel more privileged. You feel like, I'm the lucky one, like I'm getting to do a lot for the Tibetan government. Like you feel like that. You feel like working, and you don't care about the money, you don't care about the salary, and you don't care about what you are getting out of it, but instead you care more about giving how much ever you can. Yeah. So I feel like that while I'm here or working at Tibet TV. And yeah, so I know its value, and I know that it's never going to be the same, no matter how big the other media house is. Tibet TV is Tibet TV.
Wonderful. Sakina, thank you so much. And I mean, I hope that Central Tibetan Administration, whoever, is the next Sikyong, I hope that they don't let you leave. I hope they force you to extend your contract, and, you continue to work at the Central Tibetan Administration. You are right. We are so focused on the Tibetan political aspect of the movement, that we sometimes tend to forget about the diverse and the dynamic culture that we have, as people as well, right? Wonderful.
The fifth Dalai Lama was very close with the Tibetan Muslims back then in Tibet. He, in fact, gave a huge land. I think the name of the land, I don't remember it so well, but I think it's called Chanse Kang or something. Yeah. So there was this really interesting story where His Holiness the Fifth Dalai Lama, he had 3 arrows, and then he shot the 3 arrows, and he said that till the point where the arrow lands, till there is I'm going to give that much of land to the Tibetan Muslims. So there was this huge land given to the Tibetan Muslims, and in that land we had the first mosque built, and the graveyard for the Tibetan Muslims, and a lot of picnic spots. So yeah, so there is a really interesting story behind it, and I think everybody should know the story.
Absolutely. Sakina, thank you so much again. I hope that we will be able to invite you back on this show sometime, and continue this conversation. But because of the time, it's sad, but I'm gonna have to say goodbye for now.
Thank you so much, Kendra, once again for considering me to be a part of your show. And I really enjoyed today's conversation. I was very excited and a little nervous, but then you made me feel very comfortable. And thank you once again for being a wonderful host.